Is it the internet if there isn't a new bout of drama every couple of weeks? Welcome back to the Sniff Session with your host, Valerie, the niche sampler. And let's get into it. I don't have a lot of time today. I've got a million things to do and no time, like I said. But I want to get an episode out this week because you guys are awesome. First of all, the giveaway has ended. And it felt like being Santa Claus, like announcing the winner and contacting them, like, it's you, you're the one. And so that's really exciting. I hope I can do more in the future. And yeah, we're going to have to increase the bar for like the milestones because we're now 150 on Spotify, where last time I checked it was a 199 on YouTube, which is a great number. Anyway, let's chat about things that are new in. I haven't really been wearing anything out of the ordinary. It's the usual suspects. But Parfumeur sent in 402. And I have been really curious about this one for ages. And of course, I'm doing the Vanilla Showdown, which we'll talk about later as well. And this was so interesting. So it's vanilla, caramel, and sandalwood. But this is so interesting because everything's kind of floating on top of each other. It's vanilla sitting on caramel, and then there's a gap, and then there's sandalwood. And that's how it feels on my skin. But over time on clothes, it dries down into more of a woody, vanillic fragrance. It's not as sweet. This feels like a rough version of what scents like Celine Black Tie or Vanille des Afriques by Ormond Jane achieve in terms of the profile of something more woody and sheer like a sandalwood or orris with a not as sweet vanilla. I mean, this is definitely you get what you pay for kind of vibes, but it's not bad. I don't know if I would tell people to go and get this though. It's not bad, but it can be better, you know what I mean? Also, I saw in my local department store called Manor that they have the 7 virtues in Sephora, Switzerland, and I went to smell their 2 vanillas, amber vanilla and vanilla woods. Amber vanilla was interesting. It was like a light, refreshing vanilla with kind of an clean girl irisy base, almost like a Glossier U type of situation, and that was quite lovely. And then the vanilla woods was kind of, I don't know, it didn't impress me much. Overall, I can see the value the brand has in terms of being a good price point, kind of more not designer fragrance line. But yeah, I was interested to see like the quality of them. And now I know. I also got in a new perfume, obvious Une Rose, which honestly was precipitated by the fact that I wanted to sample the new Goldfield and Banks Mystic Bliss, which we will talk about now, which is soon. And I mean, it's a beautiful rose with some cardamom. It's quite sweet. It's sweeter than I recall it being, actually. It's a vibe. It's a great rose. I think that if you're looking for something more complex and deep, this is maybe not it for you. But if you're somebody who likes roses and you don't necessarily want one of these fruity roses that are the rage right now, Une Rose might be something for you. Sometimes people say that rose reminds them of grandmothers, and I guess my grandmothers just weren't rosy women because I never associated rose with either of them. But it's not a grandma rose either, I don't think. Not that I really understand what that really means. And I did get a few more samples in from Liquide by Parfum, which I always say if you ever are in Paris and you just want a cool perfume experience, try and find a day when nobody's really out and about, which is usually when it's rainy. What Parisians do when it rains is that they find a restaurant and they get sat or they stay home. So if it's a day like that, that's when you want to go. You'll have the store to yourself. The attendants are super friendly and they're always very generous with samples. And that will be a beautiful experience for you. This is why I'm still a loyal customer to this day. And okay, I'm getting carried away with the perfume end of things, and I really want to address what happened or what I saw, witnessed, heard about on TikTok. And this again has to do with business practices of brands, but overall it's more about consumer safety. And I'm sure that most people that listen to this or watch this podcast are quite compos mentos. Like, you're discerning enough to be able to really question who to trust in terms of brands. But there was a creator, I really don't know their name, that was on live, and they were testing fragrances from an independent brand from the US, and they essentially got a contact burn from the fragrance on their skin, which was likely due to the perfumer not formulating it correctly in terms of the percentage of allergens you're supposed to have in a formula, because there are certain materials that are very allergenic at certain percentages, which is why there are institutions like IFRA, I don't even know what IFRA means anymore, that have guidelines and standards for specific materials so that you know whether something is safe or not to use. In Europe, and the EEA, I guess, as well, we're kind of safe from this sort of thing because cosmetics are a particular class of material, which now is happening in the US as well, and you have to basically follow IFRA guidelines, otherwise you will not be retail worthy. I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I understand, all of them have to be compliant in terms of consumer safety. But of course, I mean, the beautiful thing about America, but also sometimes the dangerous thing about America, is that sometimes things are a bit wild west in terms of who can be selling what. I mean, people were going viral for selling their sauces, their pickles on TikTok. Like, you're buying pickles from a random lady you saw on TikTok. Yeah. So you have to be careful where you purchase from. But then this kind of opened up a bigger conversations about responsible business practices in perfumery. And once again, it's James Elliott of Filigree Shadow that was kind of the forefront of this conversation, discussing what perfumers should be doing to be a reputable business. And this includes listing your ingredients. I mean, if you purchase any fragrance from Europe, like, you'll see a list of ingredients, and you're not going to understand what's in it most of the time, because it's alcohol denat, fragrance, water, and then you've got some funny names like alpha isomethyl limonene, coumarin, linalool, citronellol, geraniol, citral, benzyl benzoate. All of those are aroma chemicals, by the way. After the perfume, these are aroma chemicals that are part of the fragrance, but because these have allergenic properties, they're specifically listed in the ingredients list as well. Other things that have been tested to be generally safe will be excluded and just be part of the parfum. And in this way, perfumers can protect their formulas somewhat, and consumers are still safe. And these institutions are constantly evaluating materials again and again, and sometimes, I mean, it frustrates perfumers because they often outlaw certain materials. For a long time you weren't allowed to use oak moss, for instance, and now I think there are some oak moss derivatives that are safe to use. Of course, animal derived products are pretty much on the out, except maybe for ambergris. Yeah, so people are working a lot to create safety standards in this industry. And when you're buying from an independent perfumer, of course, as a customer, you assume that they are doing their due diligence. But markers like showing the ingredients list and talking about safety testing and protocols are good markers of a business that is concerned about their customers' health and well-being. And then there was a conversation about dupes. And for the longest time, I've had quite a strong stance against them. And I still do for the most part. And I don't know if it's just because I'm being vindictive, but honestly, at the end of the day, morality is a wavy ocean, and much like the universe itself, there are no absolutes, and sometimes you can be swayed one way or another. Overall, the entire business model of getting GC/MS results of certain popular fragrances and then creating cheap versions of them and selling them at an extrait concentration in ugly bottles is never a business that's going to interest me for the most part. And then there are also a lot of like Arabic houses, not Arabic, well, Middle Eastern brands that are kind of dupe houses that also do their own original stuff, so you don't really know where to place them. And I just think, use your discernment. I still prefer original works of art or original fragrances because I'm trying to find new things and things that will delight and surprise. But if there's what, like I found a so-called dupe for Gris Charnel by the brand that will not be named, and it's pretty decent. So I might talk about, I don't know if I'll talk about it. I still think that promoting the concept of duping, it doesn't feel good to me. But for my own consumer practice, because I like the scent profile and I want the fragrance, I am okay with purchasing this dupe. But I just won't promote it because then I still kind of toe the line, I guess. I don't know. You tell me what you think about that. And it was very interesting to see the conversation around dupes happening again, because this was started, I think, by Brand Sense, Brandon Whitfield, who's quite a big creator out of the UK. And he admitted that he used to talk about them, but now he doesn't anymore because of the principle of perfume being art and perfumers working hard to create this masterpiece and then it's just being stolen to be sold at a fraction of the price. I mean, I'm always saying that there are beautiful fragrances at different price points. It's just up to you. But overall, you have to accept that the principle of the matter that you are willing to buy into is applicable to you. So if you're an artist, if you're a musician, whatever, if you think it's okay to participate in industries and practices that basically co-opt the hard work of others, then you have to be okay if that ever happens to you. I'm not saying it's karma, but I'm just saying that that's the principle of the matter in terms of considering the ethics of it, I guess. Okay, what else happened? Yes, the uncomfortable bit. Then there was some enlightening news, and for me it was quite awkward when I felt quite sad because I hadn't realized that this is what had happened. But there was a brand that was quite popular last year, and I formed a bit of a relationship with the founder, and they sent me stuff, and they were great fragrances. But then I don't know what happened. Something went awry within the business and the owner no longer had access to their Shopify store. And so essentially, apparently somebody had stolen or hacked the accounts. So they couldn't see what orders were being made. And people essentially lost a lot of money. A lot of people lost money because, of course, these fragrances weren't cheap. And then the founder went underground for a while and they popped back up to kind of restart. And what I hadn't realized, I mean, I was happy that they were back, and of course, because you want good things to happen to people. What I hadn't realized is that from that earlier debacle, nobody ever got a refund and things were not being addressed. So essentially, they'd come back and reinvented or did a facelift to their business because they couldn't access the old company name and the account, and started selling a new batch of fragrances and started bringing back the old ones. But people who had originally bought from the old business were still out of money, and that was not addressed, and that is not okay, and that is not cool. And yeah, I just think this is so disappointing. And you also never know what your place in things are, because of course when you're online things are quite parasocial, so you don't necessarily have the right to just say, hey dude, what are you doing, what's happening, because you could be overstepping your bounds. And at the end of the day, especially if you're not somebody that was affected by the situation, you also have to allow people to get in where they fit in. And that's also something I wanted to chat about very briefly, is that as an adult you have to stand up for yourself. If there's a situation where you can negotiate, you can say no, you could say this is a bit weird, you could say I'm not comfortable with this agreement or arrangement, or can we augment something so that I'm so that it's more fair, please do it. If a brand that like took your money and you never got it back pops up again, say something, do it. Like, be like, hey, I'm so happy you're back and you're doing better, but I've lost this amount of money. Are you going to address this? Please, can we address this? Because obviously they aren't going to be superheroes swooping in for your specific situation. And yeah, I think that's important. I think some of us learned how to stand up for ourselves in the hard way, in terms of not having people to advocate for us, or not being the kind of person that is advocated for. So I do think that is a lesson hard learned, but it's also a good lesson to take with you in life, because there are loads of amazing, beautiful people, especially perfume people, but sometimes you have to be firm with people to not take advantage of your well-being, your goodness, your niceness. Anyway, that was icky. It's just, this is, I suppose, the nature of the industry. I'm sure this happens in skincare as well. I mean, I don't think any community is probably quite as interwoven as we are, but I think it's important that we create standards for our community, and that we uphold them, and that we stand up for each other and for ourselves. And honestly, when it comes to business practices, I have yet to see anything be impossible. So many people show you at different scales that if a business owner or if a business is invested in doing something that they want to do for you or for their customers, they will. For instance, I've had PR agents in the UK contact me and say, oh, we would love to send you stuff, let us know what you want, give me your address. Give them their address. There's a Swiss flag in my bio on TikTok and on Instagram. I'm very much clearly in Switzerland. Then they ghost me. Or a brand reaches out again saying, oh, we loved your stuff, we saw you on this profile, we'd love to send you stuff. Oh, I'm so sorry, we can't ship to Switzerland. You actually can. You can ship to Switzerland. I have had brands from the UK ship me stuff. I've had brands from America ship me stuff quite easily. I don't know how they did it, and I'm sure there must have been a level of sacrifice there. So I'm always very grateful to have people who are willing to do that for me, but it is possible. So yeah, let that be a lesson. If you are a brand that goes above and beyond, that will always be noted. And of course, I know it's difficult, I know it's tough, I know that sometimes it's very hard to penetrate the EU market specifically, and honestly, even just getting things from the EU into Switzerland is tough. Like, I have paid a lot of money in import fees, which is good, because I need to stop spending money, and I will. I'm now in my not spending money era. I am now in monk mode. I am now just going to appreciate all the goodies that I bought in the couple of days just before September started. Speaking of which, one of which was a huge haul from Javoy. It is just a lot of samples. I started cataloging a lot of vanilla fragrances because last year it was Dias and Durga, the brand that shall not be named, Matière Première, and a bunch of other brands released vanilla fragrances, and I thought, do we really need another vanilla fragrance? So I just started cataloging them to see if I could find the best one. And honestly, I think I already had, for the most part, before I even started the journey. But a few contenders have really changed the shape of the game for me. One of which is Spice d'Ardor by Lectimus, another one being Celine Black Tie. I hadn't realized how good it was. Oh, and also Vanilla Edija by Lectimus is a really good spicy vanilla, and Vanille Supermassive by Les Eaux Primordiales is a great vanilla. But I wanted to kind of just wrap up the series this fall. So I got the rest of the popular ones-ish. So I got Toskovat by Indult, which I had smelled before, I had a sample of before, but I used it up, so I needed to get it again, and I will smell it again, but I'm convinced that it's not the best one. Honestly, it's probably a good one. I mean, it's a musky sweet vanilla. You can get that at a cheaper price point. and for the same execution, I don't think you need to pay 150 euros for it, but I need to smell it again and I will re-evaluate my stance on this. And of course I got the very viral Bianco latte, which I did smell at Aix-en this year for the first time, mind you, surprisingly. And I realized that while I am a vanilla girl, I need vanilla with interest. I have realized that my taste is not as edgy as I thought it was, which is okay. I do recall not being very impressed by this, but again, I'll give it another chance. I accidentally ordered 2 samples, so if I like it, at least I can splash it around a bit. I also picked up some more from the Enfumant Coty. I ordered these from Jovoy, and they are stocking Enfumant Coty, which is amazing because they had a pop-up store in Paris, but now they're opening one in New York, and they have not an installation, but they're being stocked in Zurich at Spitzenhaus. So I'm very excited to smell more of their stuff. I'm not sure about this house. They have good quality fragrances. I do think the molecular aura thing is a gimmick. The packaging is great though, it's fantastic, that I will not deny. I also had been intrigued by this house. It's 6+2 or Dotto. I think the scent is 6+2 but Dotto, but they have a very cool sample packaging. It's kind of a circle with a lot of gold on it. It's very funny. The other day I was walking by a department store stand, and then the lady kind of started speaking to me in Swiss German, basically saying, "Can I help you?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I'm literally just distracted by shiny things." And that'll always be who I am. I am a girl that loves glamour. I remember when I was younger, a lot of my email accounts were Little Miss Fabulous. The joys of youth. I also got some of the Jovoy ones, Fire at Will and Remember Me. I already had Remember Me, but I wanted to re-up on it because I ran out of the other sample because I actually really liked it. And I also got Insulo by Jeroboam, which I had been speaking about for eons. But now I've realized one of the lessons I did learn is that you have to repeat things. You have to repeat things, otherwise people won't know that you've already said this about them, and people won't know that you like them. And also, I need to repeat across platforms because I forget to do that sometimes. And so today we're going to go through some of the samples that I got from Liquide Paris with my Une Rose order, and also just a couple more indie brands, because I don't want people to be swayed away or to be discouraged from supporting indie perfumers, because these are people that are probably the most abundantly creative and daring, and they're not used to the competition of a traditional perfumer, right? So if you're in a fragrance house, for instance, like Givaudan, Symrise, DSM, Firmenich, you have to a brief will come in, and you have to pitch a scent in order to win that contract. And if you win the contract, you get a bonus on top of your base salary. And so, of course, especially if you're working with clients that are working with a fragrance house, there is a certain confinement in terms of commercial viability that your scents have to have, I suspect. And yeah, I know it's very tough. I have a friend who's a perfumer, Ashley, in Paris. You might have seen her on YouTube or TikTok or on the Parfumeur podcast. And she says that it's such an interesting dichotomy between the niche houses that work with them versus the designer ones, because sometimes when you are an artistic brand, you have to also remember that even though your idea is really cool, some people don't want to smell like blood, guts and gore. So I thought that we have to give them grace. So one of the first fragrances that I was really intrigued by that I wanted to chat about is one from a brand that I really respect, which is Parfum d'Empire. And it is basically a house by the independent perfumer, I guess, Marc-Antoine Corchiato or Corchiati. And this is Forever Love, Forever Summer, Forever Flowers. And while I don't have the scent profile of this, when I smelled it, I recognized it for what it was. It's a yellow floral chypre. And in fact, I think I had a fragrance that smelled very similar to this. But I think there might be tiare flower in this. In fact, if you liked Oud Jaune Intense, you will like this. That's what it is. It reminds me of Oud Jaune Intense by Fragrance du Bois. But this one is 130 euros for 50 ml, so you do that math. So I didn't like Oud Jaune by Fragrance du Bois. There's a certain kind of solo floral. I do like ylang ylang, but there's a certain way it's worked sometimes that doesn't work with me. I really, for instance, I don't like most things with tiare flower in them. It just, something about it just does not agree with me, and that's okay. And then Mystic Bliss by Goldfield and Banks, which I'd smelled when I went to a party at Aix-en-Provence back in March, and it's fabulous. I went away from that party with a bottle of Island Lush, which I absolutely love, but this is a Canfers Sandalwood Orris. It's also quite figgy. As it dries down, it gets more figgy, and then the fig goes away, then the Orris and Sandalwood jumps through again. The aromatic camphorous aspects kind of sit on top. So I think there's mint, there is Clara Sage, very green, but not disturbingly so. They have a kind of signature creaminess to their scents, which I think are great. And I think that this one is very lovely. When I first smelled this, I thought I must have a bottle of it, but I need to see how much I actually wear this in the autumn, because I think that I just still prefer my other sandalwoods. So we'll see. I think I prefer Island Lush over this one actually. So I think I've actually got my favorite Goldfield and Banks. By the way, the Silky Woods are going to go into the Vanilla Showdown because those are actually vanilla fragrances. They're not wood fragrances. But I also have a few more things. We know we have some new obvious fragrances. They've created a new line called High Standards. This one is a bit more pricey than their usual price point. So something like Une Rose, for instance, will go for 110 euros with tax included. But now these new ones are at 175, which I still think is very good. If you were to ask me if I like the new obvious fragrances, I would say yes. But on a deeper level, I would say that Frida's Thorns is the only one that is compellingly different and new. The ouds, on the other hand, play into what is quite popular in the market right now, which is a good, clean oud wood accord that has some interest. I've just sprayed Malfa Walls, which is one of the ones that I do like of the two new ouds. I haven't actually gotten oud in a while, but this has a lot of orange peel and then also some cassis. So it's got a bitter, ripe fruitiness to it, sitting on that clean oud wood accord. And it also has a few herbaceous elements as well. I think there's thyme in there. And yeah, these are good. This is good. But I just feel like it's too familiar. I think that this oud wood accord that everybody's loving is way too familiar. So we need to update, upgrade, or just stick to the real stuff. But mind you, we can't all afford the real stuff. I'm sorry, my phone is buzzing. Yes. When you have mom friends, you get a lot of baby pics. I love that people are finding their calling in parenthood. And I think it's really beautiful. But sometimes I do not struggle, but I do find it difficult to navigate being a good friend in the context of not being a mother myself. So some things that are very like, oh, mom core, I love this. I'm just like, oh, that's so cute. I don't really relate. Oh, okay, this one is Himalayan Spell. This is an aromatic saffron leather oud, but it's still got that clean oud wood thing going on. It has some nuances that remind me of Oud Stallion by Maison Crivelli. That's the thing, these two ouds remind me of an oud that Maison Crivelli would produce as an extrait. But this one actually feels a bit more animalic. This one feels like it might have real oud in it, actually. Because actually in the breakdown, they name an oud, an Andras or Indus oud or something. So yeah, out of the two ouds, Himalayan Spell versus Malfa Walls, the Himalayan Spell is the more interesting one. The Malfa Walls is the one that I like better. Sorry, I just got a little distracted by my cell phone there. I don't like that it was buzzing. I usually have it on Do Not Disturb. Okay, now we have Frida's Thorns. And this one is the one that I thought was the most compelling, because I don't think that there are many scents on the market that go where this is going. This is a chocolate patchouli scent with spice and rose and fruits. It's quite sensuous. To me, it almost feels like there's an aspect of it that favors what you would smell in Guidance by Amouage. It's by no means a dupe, but there's something that's sensual in there that reminds me of Guidance. I think it's maybe the pear raspberry combination. Then you've got a chocolate and it's powdered up by patchouli, so it feels more like a cocoa powder, a cacao powder. And there's rose in there that adds a rubiness to it. This one is very interesting. It's very bold. It's very dynamic. I think that this one is exciting. This one is about perfumery. This is what perfumery is about. It's so different. And if you met somebody that smelled like this, you would say, you smell amazing. And you would give them the compliment and mean it. And it might not be for you, so you wouldn't necessarily seek out the fragrance, but you would think that, oh, this is somebody that spent time looking for a fragrance they like, and they found it and it's fantastic on them. Oopsie. So thank you to Obvious for releasing something new and exciting. And as we speak, I've just remembered that I did not ask for a sample of Scoville, because I still haven't smelled that. And Jeff and Jane on the Fragophilia podcast were talking about Scoville and really liked it. And now I want to smell it because I hadn't thought much of it. I found a couple more Toskovat samples, so I thought that we could smell these together. The first one is Wishes Well. I remember there was one that smells like birthday cake, or had a birthday cake accord. Oh, I don't know if it's this one. There's something aromatic. It's these fragrances are very confronting. Like they're just in your face. Oh, there's something industrial smelling. Oh, I'm gonna put the blotter down. I might come back to it, but right now it's really irritating my nose. It's really irritating my nose. And so at least like indie brands, I think, allow for niche to stay interesting. There was a creator that was saying that they're not so excited by niche fragrances at the moment, and they're going back to designer. And I can understand that, but I also think it depends who you sample. Oh, I just read Inexcusable Evil. I can smell the bandages. I can smell the wounds. I can smell my regret. Honestly, it's not revolting, but it's just confronting. It's just like, oh, it's a lot. Yeah, but this is definitely something where I'd be like, okay, if an art gallery no, actually I wouldn't. I'm gonna put that over there. I don't I don't know if I can continue. Yeah, it's all in the air. And I think that everything else is going to be marred by that smell. I should have thought about this. I should have thought this through. Let me think. So we smelled through the obvious scents. We smelled Un Beau L'amour, Une Rose 402, Goldfield and Banks. That's at least like a small discovery set's worth of stuff. Yeah. I'm gonna have to stop it over here, folks. I need to recover and I need to finish packing. So remember to sample before you buy, really. Even if you think you are the edgiest of edgelords, that Inexcusable Evil, that stuff is potent. It's quite sweet as well, though, so it's not unbearable, but wow. Yeah, this is a record scratch. Pause. I cannot. We will continue this next week with other indies. I have some Andy Tower. I have some from Scent Trunk, and I have some Yosh as well. So we could go through those instead next week, and I'll also finish the other two Toskovats. But these two just, oh no, the Wish as Well one. What is that gas? No. I guess today I was not an ultra niche girl. Today I was just a normie. I hope you have a great week. Stay tuned in. Sample before you buy. And as always, happy sniffing.